I think we're in a low-key recession. Folks that run very cyclical businesses are telling us in very plain-spoken English that demand isn't there. So the one that was interesting this past week, Jason, you mentioned millennials, but like Airbnb, where you think all these young people are running around YOLOing whatever cash they have, Airbnb had a massive warning on demand. So when I think the excess capital, whether it's the stimmy check or what have you, has been exhausted, we're now starting to see it bear out in these cyclical businesses. I don't think the demand is there. I think we're in a recession. It probably becomes more obvious in Q3 and Q4. And so Powell's going to have to cut. The question is, will he overreact to the pressure and cut 75 to 100 versus 25 and take it slow?
To go back to your first question on the state of the economy, I had lunch with a very prominent investor yesterday who's very plugged in with the hedge fund community. And he said that the sentiment shift had been very sudden, that people were now very worried about the risk of a recession. And I do think that the Airbnb revenue that Chamath cited is a big factor. Airbnb's stock went down 15% in one day on soft demand. And what's driving all of this is consumer weakness, or at least fear of consumer weakness. And I think professional investors are getting quite worried about the risk of a recession. And I guess just one last point on this. If you were to remove the impact of government spending, it's pretty clear the private sector is in a recession.
What happened around the mid-2000s, 2004, 2005, is you suddenly were able to type in a couple of words into the URL bar of a browser and hit go, and it would give you search results. The question is, what search engine did it give you those results from? And that's what this lawsuit is about. Google started to pay companies like Apple to make Google the default search engine when you would type in a couple of words and hit go into the URL bar, because search became the primary way of surfing the internet, not typing in a URL and going to it. And then when they started doing that, they started to see more search traffic. Now, the real question from an antitrust perspective is, did Google leverage its monopoly to pay to continue to be the default search engine to lock in the search market and prevent competition by doing this?
Well, the judge already said yes.
The judge said yes. Google is monopolizing search because they're paying to lock in the ability to type in to get the default on the search bar. By the way, you can go into the settings and change it.
This is the government stopping corporate America, so it can't not be political. What's your take here, and what will we see in the future? More regulation, more rulings like this, slap on the wrist, breakup. Is this more to come, or this is peak regulation in your mind of big tech?
Well, I think this is a good decision. I mean, Google clearly is a monopoly. In fact, it's at least 2 or 3 monopolies. They have a monopoly in search, they have a monopoly in advertising, and they at least have a dominant position in video with YouTube. And I think that it would be great if the government broke up this company. I mean, it should be at least 3 or 4 companies. I mean, there should be search should be its own company, advertising should be its own company, YouTube should be spun out, and then I don't know if G Suite should be a separate company or should get lumped in with search. I don't know, but I think this should be at least 3 or 4 companies.